Hi, everyone. Hello, and welcome to this session today. I'm Laura Valerio, Go-to-Market Strategy at HighSpot. I'm Italian. I live in London. I've been living in London for about 12 years now, so my English won't be too fast. But if I'm going too fast, just let me know, and I will slow down. So when I was preparing for our session today, I was thinking about the audience. I always think about the audience when I prepare big presentations, and I was particularly proud and privileged to think about how many people in sales and how many people representing the go-to-market motion are here today. And it's particularly relevant on a topic that I'm really passionate about, which is go-to-market transformation. And I've been, I would say, lucky, but also I've searched it, because in my career, I've always been at the forefront of transformation. In travel, back in 2000 with Expedia, and then food tech with Deliveroo. And the last company before joining HighSpot was Vodafone. And I spent about 20 years in sales and 10 years in leading teams that were driving big digital transformation, big go-to-market transformations, with partnering with sales, marketing, the product team, and operations. And today, in my current job, what I do is I work with many companies and many go-to-market leaders who are thinking about how do I drive a transformation that really make an impact within my organization, that reflects in our goals. And what I've learned, and one of the realities that I am experiencing right now, is that strategy is very often like what is present in all these organizations. And the real challenge is what lays between the ambition of a company and the impact that the company wants to drive. So it's really about execution. So the theme for today is really about how do we help teams execute better and with impact in the current world. So why do we have this gap? And what has changed in the recent years? And how can we fill that gap by bridging structure and AI and technology? So before I move ahead and think about what sales leaders want, how many sales leaders do we have in our audience today? Very good. So you can keep me honest if these are the two biggest themes that sales leaders are thinking about today. The one is, how do I win the deals for the quarter? How do I get to my own targets this quarter? And this is like the biggest pressure point. And 80% of the time typically is spent on how can I help my team win this lead? But the other big theme is around how do I also help my team win repeatedly? So how do I create a system so that my team can win quarter after quarter? And how do I maximize productivity of my team? And in the present world, this has become more difficult than ever, especially if we think about all the different inputs that we receive every single quarter. It's about new technologies, new products, new solutions, new processes that we need to follow. And so here is what our teams are experiencing. So we know that the sales team are really putting a lot of effort. They're doing whatever they can to go and achieve their target. That's what sales team want to do. I want to win that deal. But actually, despite all the investments in new technologies, in new processes, in getting people work together, I'm not achieving my targets. And we see that the reps are more and more confused about a lot of different information that they receive every day. The key initiatives are not landing in the field, and there are siloed insights across the teams. There are lots of different technologies, but the data don't talk to each other. And so we get at the end of the quarter and we have missed our targets. So when I was building this image, I guess if how many of you feels like go-to-market today is like this? So what we have is there is a lot in our plate, right? As a sales leaders, we have new demos, we have new training suggestions, and we have constantly, like, there are pitch decks, emails, histories, and all the different functions are there to help our sellers to sell more, right? So all good intentions, but sometimes it feels like chaos. And externally, you see that everybody is moving, but internally, as a sales leader, and as a sales leader, I spend a lot of question trying to prioritize and trying to educate my company to start looking at the initiative that my team need to drive and to end. But driving the execution often feels like steering through the fog. Everybody is looking at their own little piece, but we don't have this visibility across all the different functions, across all the different initiatives, or the data that tell me if what I'm putting in market is actually being successful. And here are 3 images that I wanted to bring to this presentation, because what happens then is my sellers are experiencing burnout. And I don't know how many of you are now experiencing it, but there is a disbelief. People are becoming more and more skeptical about what AI can help us solving. And it feels sometimes that we are also flying blind. We are having a lot of signals, but these signals don't connect to each other. And we ran a survey about 3-4 months ago, and we surveyed about 500 people, 500 go-to-market leaders across the globe. These data are available in a survey that is called the Sales Enablement, the State of Sales Enablement 2025. And one of the statistics is that 80% of go-to-market leaders report burnout, stress, or regretted attrition due to misaligned system and workflows. So people are putting a lot of effort, but actually too much effort is now driving more burnout. Technology. We've invested in many different technologies because it looks like AI is solving all sorts of problems. But of 77% of the organizations that have introduced AI as a technology, only 28% are seeing the benefits of it. So there is a mismatch between the promise and how we are leveraging those tools. And the truth is that only 6% of go-to-market leaders today are really able to measure those signals that are helping us driving performance, which means that there is this feeling of flying blind, and it's not a good feeling. It's actually, if I don't know the direction where I'm going, it's a feeling that can create a lot of not just stress, but I don't know how to provide a new direction to the team that I'm leading today. Do these statistics resonate with you and with the world that you are seeing right now? So here is the gap. Because we are experiencing, and at HighSpot we work with hundreds of companies that are actually in this middle, we wanted to understand if this gap is real. And so what we did about 2 months ago, again, we interviewed go-to-market teams across the globe and with representatives and go-to-market leaders across different functions. Operations, sales, marketing were part of this interview. And what we found out in the go-to-market performance report is that, so it's not just HighSpot customer, it's like companies that are working with different types of technologies. We just wanted to understand and have a sense from the market if this challenge is real. And it is, because 98% of the leaders say, we have a good strategy, and we have a good strategy in place, but only 10% of them say that they feel like that they have a team who is actually executing on the strategy. And this is what we call the performance gap. And in the age of AI, this gap is widening much, much faster. And the reason is that there is not one single failure point. As you've seen from my image before, there are so many initiatives, so many inputs that are going across different teams and are landing to our sales team that there is not one point of failure. There are many points of failure. It's like misaligned systems. It's like thinking about technologies that are not connected, processes that are quite hard to follow. And so what we are seeing is, again, some of the stats coming from the Go-to-Market performance report say that 39% say that content isn't used effectively. And how many hours is my marketing team spending in producing content? The deal cycle is slowing. We have different buyer expectation. We have more people that are involved in the decision-making process, right? But also, are our teams really prepared to deal with multiple stakeholders? CIOs, CTOs are more involved when it comes to deciding, for example, on new technologies. Are we prepared to have those discussions? Or chief operating officer as well. 34% struggle with shifting priorities. How many times we start the quarter and we think that we have clear priorities in our book, and then those priorities shift? And 30% are saying, even if I have a good strategy in place, my win rates are actually falling short. So the real challenge is, how can we bring focus, connection, and visibility to our team so that we can win the quarter and we can create that system that repeatedly generates success within my team? And one question that I also get asked a lot is, how is it that many companies are successful and others are stalling? And okay, we have a good strategy in place. How do we drive the execution? And I found while I was, again, preparing to come here today, I found a very interesting story. I don't know, how many of you have heard about Roger Bannister? Maybe you know where I'm going to then. And how many of you are like running marathons or preparing to run for? Very good. So what you might realize is that when you prepare to run a marathon or win a triathlon, and you need to prepare for your performance, it's not just about the physical, like being trained and putting more effort in. It's really a mental shift. This is what Roger Bannister accomplished in 1954. Until 1954, the 4-minute mile was something that people thought were completely unattainable, right? Until Roger Bannister started thinking about the challenge in a different way. And not only he decided to train differently, but he decided to build a system around him and use more of the pacemaker to keep him on rhythm, leveraging his friend to give him feedback, and train in a different way so that he managed to run the 1 mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. And what was even most interesting, and what happened after that, was that dozens and many others followed. Many others started thinking differently about how can I win that particular blocker, that particular barrier. So it's all about a mind shift and how we think about our current challenges in a different way. When we start our go-to-market transformation journey, or when we want to have our sales team think differently about how can I achieve my quarter, like this target, that's when we need to have our own Bannister moment and think if, are there any other ways in which I can think about this challenge? But also, one thing that Bannister did was to start thinking about where he was before he started running for this challenge, right? It's awareness of the moment, where I am now. If I need to climb a mountain, the first thing that I look at is at my gears. Am I ready? Am I fit enough? Do I have the right guide? Do I know the route that I need to go? And so what we did at HighSpot, we started collecting the experience that we have working with hundreds of customers, and we decided to create a maturity roadmap, a go-to-market maturity roadmap, for two reasons. Reason number one is by understanding at which stage or where you are in your journey to transformation, it's a good way to start then thinking about what's the next step. And it's important, and that's the second reason why we developed that maturity roadmap, is to have clarity on what are the next steps, what does it take to go from where I am today to where I want to do, and how long it will take to move to the next step, right? So the first step is emerging. So, and while we go through this exercise, one thing that I'd like you to do is to think about your company, where your company is today, and start assessing your current level. Because the more we go up to this maturity curve, the more consistency there will be in the way our sellers will execute, the more clarity and the more consistency and the more predictability of results as well, right? So if we think about the emerging stage, this stage is really important, and this is the stage in which I typically started when I started, for example, enablement at Expedia or enablement at Deliveroo. That's a stage where all the different, focuses, I said, on experiments. It means that the majority of the sales team are all using different decks when they are presenting to their prospects. And not because they want to use different decks, but because all the decks are spread across multiple repositories, and it's not clear what's the latest and the one that they should actually use. So they have a lot of materials and they just decide to take the decks that it's best for them in that particular moment. We have different processes, but they're not coordinating. And the marketing team produces a lot of content. And sometimes what we see is that there is a disconnect across the teams. Some teams have KPIs that are based on outcomes, so the impact in the market, and some teams are based on task. Hey, I'm launching a new product now, and what I'm going to do is, success for me is producing all the different materials that the sellers will absolutely use, even if we've seen that only 39% of those assets are used, will absolutely use when it comes to launching this new product to market, right? But what is important of this stage, and what is important to the awareness of that stage, is that even if there is a lot of effort from our teams to go to market, I know that I need to change. I know that I need to create more consistency, and I know that I need to bring people working together to simplify the way my sales team get the information, understand the processes, or just simplify the technology that they are using at that stage. Because what I want to do is to move at the foundational level. And the foundational level is where I start focusing on alignment. And alignment is not just about collaboration, it's about aligning and prioritizing on what are the goals and what are the key things that I want my go-to-market teams execute in this quarter. And so if the initiative, for example, is a new product launch or a new service, I will have the marketing team working together with enablement or sales or operations and making sure that I have the process in place, the collateral in place, but also the timing in place. Imagine launching a new product in the last month of the quarter. What's the attention span of a seller? 0. And the reason why is because the last month of the quarter is when sellers are busy in closing deals. They're not busy they don't want to have extra information or thinking about what's the next extra thing. And so alignment means prioritizing, understanding the business rhythm and helping really seller execute better, thinking about what's their rhythm, how can I help them following their rhythm of execution. And I can start building the foundation, aligning on the KPIs, for example, of a new product launch. By aligning on the KPIs of a new product launch, we get people more connected. And typically what happens when I start to align on a particular initiative, I flag some disconnections across the team. It can be a disconnection in technology, it can be a disconnection in the process, or it can be a disconnection on the data. Because at the foundational stage, I might have data, like I might start measuring how many people have been trained or have used certain assets, and have I seen a certain results then as a consequence in, for example, my pipeline creation on pipeline 1. But as a sales leader, I'm still at the stage in which I need to put all these results together and pulling results from different platforms. When I get to a connected world, I get to a place where all the data start flowing across the different systems that I've put in place. Because at the foundational stage, I have identified a gap, and I will solve the gap, creating more connection. And that's what prepares us to go into the more transformational level. That's where not only I have connected the technology and the data that are flowing across the different technologies, but also I have the stage in which the technologies learn from the behaviors that are winning, and they not only celebrate the winning behaviors, but actually they systematize it. These become part of the way I go to market. These are the behaviors that as a sales leaders I want to reinforce. And this is a place in which we will become more agile in the execution, and the execution will become more predictable, which is what we want. How do we systematically increase the performance of our own team? So, if I ask in this audience, thinking about where you are as a company, how many of you would say that you are at the stage of emerging and thinking about moving from emerging to foundational? Very good. How many of you are in the foundational stage already? Very good. And how many in the connected? That's great. That's great. Anyone in the transformational stage? That's really... I'd like to see if at the end we have some time to see how you got into the top and at the transformational stage, because there is a lot of change management that needs to happen before to reaching that top. And what we are seeing in the market is actually that the majority of the company are still between emerging and foundational and trying to go into the connected stage. Because the connected stage, if you're thinking about the new technologies and AI works across each different stage, right? So you can use technology at the emerging stage and where AI can help you finding the best content in the timely to present at a certain presentation. Or you can use, for example, role play at emerging stage, right? But to have the agents working well, I need to be at the connected stage, or even transformational. At the transformational stage, going back to like what we were saying before, you can have multi-agents working together. So that's where we want to get. And here is the reality as well. I was in a workshop in London just a few weeks ago. And I was having a keynote with Sri from Bain. And he said something really interesting. AI maturity or go-to-market maturity on its own is not enough. Without change management, leadership clarity, and systems to embed it, execution stalls. The company pulling ahead are the ones pairing innovation with discipline. So now, if we think about innovation is all about technology and AI. But I've always, coming from like a sales background and a transformation background, I've always thought that technology and AI are just a mean to an end, right? The real transformation comes with discipline, which is people and processes. How those, and once I have all these elements coming together, that's when I can drive really good transformation across a company. What the technology help me building is like the technology can be the backbone of the actions, right? The technology helped me understanding what are the actions, what's the direction that my team is taking, and it provides visibility on what are the key actions that help me going through a deal. AI helps me actually having visibility on what works, but also it helps me connecting the dots across all the different activities so that I can have more insights on what's a winning behavior. But again, it's people and process. The process gives me a system that I can put in place and that helps me scale. And people give me like the purpose of what are the things that I want to change or I need to change in order to make my team be really performing in a world with so many inputs and such a high pace of innovation. One thing that I've experienced in my career, and maybe some of you have experienced the same, is sometimes we are launching a new product or a new solution in go-to-market, and everyone is actually excited about it. And one of the moments to launch like the new innovations is at SKO. I prepare my sales team, and after the SKO, I'd like everybody to go and execute, right? So how many times have we seen that marketing team, operations, enablement, sales, everybody knows that this moment is coming, we are super excited, we launch, we are in a big hype, and then after a few weeks, everybody goes back to the old behavior. And this is quite common. This is what we see happening in the market. And is it because the idea was wrong? Or is it because we didn't have the right materials in place? And the answer is no. The idea is really good. But what we didn't have is a system behind that helps us with the execution. Do I need to speed up? Yes, I have a minute. Okay. So here, what I wanted to share with you is how do I design a system that makes the winning repeatable? Think about our Roger Bannister story. And if before AI, we needed to have multiple teams working together to think about what went wrong, and I discover what is going wrong only when I look at my data in the CRM, when I see that I'm not missing my targets, right? What AI helps us doing is understanding what's going wrong or where deals are stalling while I work on them. Like AI helps us identifying the friction on where I will lose momentum. Think about a recorded calls, for example, or I can design the process, but AI helps me making all the materials immediately available to the sales team. It helps me capture insights that are telling me if actually I'm winning or not in the market, and I can adjust in the moment. This is the winning formula. How can I help my team adjusting in the moment so that I can achieve my target at the end of the quarter? I have 1 minute to finish. So
Yes, a minute. Take a minute.
Thank you. So, and if you want to know more, I will be in booth 04 so that we can go more into the detail. But the biggest and most important thing is where do I start? And you can start small. Think about where the pain is high and how can you think differently about solving that pain. And what we can see also is that with the new approach, what we are seeing is that as soon as we have the foundation right and I get into the foundational phase and I have all what my go-to-market teams need to execute at speed, as soon as I inject AI, I move from results that are based on leading indicator into what our sales leadership and our boardroom care the most, which is reduced sales cycle and higher win rate. So you can join us to booth 04, which is close to the main stage, sales main stage, or we can continue the conversation if you connect to me on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.